there's two parts to Oprah Winfrey that I haven't really spoken about publicly. The other part with Oprah Winfrey is, yeah, you let me get thrown under the bus and you said nothing. The other part is you mess with my family.
One woman, 3 decades of power, and a list of names that keeps getting darker.
I've never been near a puff party. Never been near. And anybody who knows me knows if there is a party, I'm the first one out.
She says she wasn't there. She says she didn't know. She says she was just trying to do the right thing. But here's what nobody is connecting.
When you're a guy that generates money,
Yeah.
people have a vested interest in control.
Dave Chappelle said it years ago, and the industry laughed it off. But now, with Diddy behind bars, Harvey Weinstein convicted, and Jeffrey Epstein's name permanently burned into history, people are finally going back and listening to what Dave was actually trying to tell us. Because according to Chappelle, Oprah Winfrey isn't just a bystander in all of this. She's the constant. She's the through line. She is, in his words, the handler. And today, we're going to connect every single dot. Let's start with something simple. Pull up Oprah's name in any serious Hollywood scandal from the last 30 years, and she's there. Not accused, not charged, not even officially implicated, but there, right at the edge of the frame. Close enough to touch the fire, but never burned by it? Harvey Weinstein, photographed kissing him on the cheek at industry events. Diddy, footage allegedly surfacing of her name on the guest list of his 1998 birthday party. And then there's Jeffrey Epstein. Her former business partner, a woman named Geraldine Laybourne, with whom Oprah co-founded Oxygen Media, was found on Epstein's private jet log. Now, does that make Oprah guilty of anything? No, but it adds another layer to the same unshakable pattern. Friendly with Harvey, name floating near Diddy's parties, business partner connected to Epstein's flights, and a school in South Africa surrounded by abuse allegations and disappearing children. Every single time, the official narrative is the same. Oprah didn't know. Oprah was devastated. Oprah was just trying to help.
Was, needless to say, devastated and really shaken to my core when I first heard this news. And I spoke to all the girls personally, and I encouraged all of them, any of them who had actually been harmed, to please.
Devastated, shaken, encouraging victims to come forward. But here's what Dave Chappelle has been saying, in one form or another, for nearly 20 years. What if the devastation is part of the performance? What if the woman who built her entire empire on empathy is the most dangerous kind of person in the room? One who makes you trust her completely before the trap closes? Let's go back to 2006. Dave Chappelle had just walked away from the most lucrative deal in comedy history, $50 million from Comedy Central. He fled to South Africa. The media called him unstable. Hollywood called him paranoid. Oprah naturally invited him onto her show, and what happened next is one of the most revealing moments in the history of that program.
Increasingly paranoid. Would you say you were paranoid?
Sure. First of all, what is a black man without his paranoia intact? You might win $100 in a poker game and be on the subway. You're gonna look over your shoulder. They just said in everything I had $50 million. That's like making me a marked man.
Watch how that exchange works. Dave is trying to explain rationally why he left. He's talking about power, control, and the way the industry uses money to own people. And Oprah keeps steering the conversation toward his mental state, toward instability, toward paranoia.
So did you go to a psychiatric hospital?
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Who? I'm insane. They were trying to get me to take psychotic medication.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not taking this medicine, man, because I know these people be trying to control you or maybe discredit you.
Discredit you. That's the word. Because in Hollywood, when someone starts telling the truth about how the machine works, the machine doesn't silence them with threats anymore. It's far more elegant than that. It questions their sanity. It makes them look unstable. And Oprah's show was the perfect vehicle for that kind of soft character assassination. Dave understood exactly what was happening in that chair.
We have to do something if they spy on some of us. I mean, who has anything to hide?
He also said something that people completely glossed over at the time. That Oprah acts as a right hand for the Hollywood elites. That the dirty work, the reputation management, the public shaping of narratives, it all flows through her. She's the friendly face that makes the machine look human. And before you write that off as conspiracy talk, let's look at what multiple celebrities have said about their own experiences in that chair. Monique, Ludacris, 50 Cent, Rose McGowan, Taraji P. Henson. These are not fringe voices. These are award-winning artists who at different points in their careers described the same experience, getting close to Oprah's orbit and coming out the other side damaged. Start with Monique. She gave one of the most devastating performances in cinema history in the movie Precious, a film produced by Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry. She won the Oscar, and then her career evaporated almost overnight.
So Tyler Perry says to me, listen, you may really want to consider promoting this film, because if you get nominated for an Oscar award, your next film is $3 to $5 million. And if you win it, your next film is $6 to $8 million. I said, Tyler, who are you talking to? I'm a black woman. Where do they pay those type of salaries, brother? I said, what I cannot do, Tyler, is work for free.
Monique refused to do unpaid press runs overseas. She stood her ground, and suddenly every headline in the industry was calling her a diva, difficult, unbearable to work with. Sound familiar? Because that's the exact same playbook that gets activated every time someone steps out of line. But what Oprah did next took it to a completely different level.
She never said my mother. She never said my father. Now, I know who my parents were because they're both gone. I know who they are. I know my mother's greed. I know my father's greed. And you did not say that you were going to have my parents, because had you said you had my mother.
Oprah invited Monique's estranged family onto the show, including the brother who had assaulted her as a child, without fully disclosing to Monique who would be in that studio. Monique had told Oprah privately that she was not on speaking terms with her family. She told Oprah about her brother, and Oprah used that exact private information to construct a television moment without Monique's full consent. That is not empathy, that is exploitation wearing empathy's face. Now let's talk about Ludacris.
She was able to say what she said, and then I had my rebuttal, and when I saw the final show, her comments were in there.
Right, was in there, but yours wasn't in there.
And mine weren't in there, so it just looked like I kind of took it.
Oprah edited his rebuttal out of the episode. She kept her criticism, she removed his response. To millions of viewers, it looked like Ludacris sat there silently and accepted being talked down to. His reputation took the hit. Her narrative survived. That is not a talk show. That is a courtroom where she is the judge, the prosecutor, and the editor of the transcript. And 50 Cent saw all of this clearly. 50 Cent understood something that many people weren't willing to say out loud, that Oprah's cultural power was built on a very specific audience, and that power was used to determine which black artists got elevated and which ones got frozen out. And when Monique was going through her worst professional years, 50 Cent was one of the only people in the industry publicly standing up for her. When Dave Chappelle used the word handler, people heard conspiracy theory, but what he was actually describing is something far more grounded and far more disturbing. A handler in Hollywood isn't a shadowy figure in a basement. A handler is someone with enough cultural authority to shape public perception, to decide who is credible and who is crazy, who is a star and who is blacklisted, whose trauma gets amplified and whose gets buried. Think about what that actually looks like in practice. Harvey Weinstein needed a friendly public face. Oprah was photographed warmly with him at industry events for years. When his crimes came to light, Oprah went on television and gave a speech about the Me Too movement that went viral. The world applauded, and the conversation moved away from what she knew and when she knew it.
If we make this just about Harvey Weinstein, then we will have lost this moment.
She literally said it on camera. Don't make this about Harvey. Broaden the conversation. Zoom out. And overnight, a room full of journalists who should have been asking Oprah hard questions were instead sharing her speech as an act of bravery. Rose McGowan, one of Weinstein's most vocal accusers, saw exactly what was happening. And what happened to Rose after she said that publicly?
Terrorized me, really intensively, because they knew I was writing a book.
She was terrorized intensively for tweeting criticism of Oprah Winfrey. Let that sink in, because that is what power actually looks like when it operates without accountability. Here is where the pattern stops being a coincidence and starts becoming something that demands a harder conversation. In 2010, Oprah traveled to Brazil to personally visit a man named João Teixeira de Faria, better known as John of God. She featured him in her O magazine. She showcased him on her show. She described their encounter as one of the most profound experiences of her life.
He calls himself John of God, but his real name is John Faria, a man who claims miracles. But what happens here is much less divine intervention than downright exploitation.
By 2018, over 600 women had accused this man of sexual assault spanning decades. He turned himself into police and was sentenced to 63 years in prison.
Did you feel anything at all after you had been in this man's presence?
No. Nothing.
The moment the scandal broke, Oprah scrubbed every trace of him from her official website. Deleted episodes, removed articles, as if the association never existed. Not an apology to the hundreds of women whose trust in this man was partly built on Oprah's endorsement. Just erasure? Now let's talk about the school in South Africa. Because the conspiracy theories about missing children from Oprah's Leadership Academy are not just internet rumors. There is a documented backdrop of real crisis surrounding that institution.
According to the South African Police Service Missing Persons Bureau, a child goes missing every 5 hours in South Africa. A non-profit group, Missing Children South Africa, says the country is losing the fight against the rising number of child kidnappings.
A dormitory employee at Oprah's school was charged with assaulting 7 girls. She was later acquitted. Then 7 students were suspended for sexually harassing and assaulting classmates. Then the body of a newborn was found in a girl's book bag on campus. 3 separate incidents. 1 school. All within a few years of its opening. Parents described it as a detention camp, an abduction, children isolated from their families. Oprah called herself Mama Bear, but actual mothers were being denied access to their daughters. And when you combine all of this, John of God, the South Africa school, Diddy's birthday party, the Epstein-connected business partner, you start to see what Dave Chappelle was pointing at. Not a single crime, not a single smoking gun, but a persistent, unbroken pattern of proximity to predators that has followed this woman across 3 decades and multiple continents. Here is the most chilling part of this entire story. Every single person who came forward and criticized Oprah, whether it was Monique, Ludacris, Rose McGowan, 50 Cent, Dave Chappelle himself, experienced some form of professional consequence. And every single time Oprah stayed quiet or redirected, she came out richer and more powerful. Monique went from Oscar winner to industry outcast. Rose McGowan was terrorized after a single tweet. Ludacris had his rebuttal deleted from national television. And Dave Chappelle was handed the "he's unstable" label the moment he sat down in Oprah's chair.
Been excluded. I've been excluded on Oprah, you know.
On Oprah?
On Oprah, yeah, I've been
Excluded, that's the polite word for it. In Hollywood, exclusion from Oprah's platform in the era of her dominance was not just a missed opportunity, it was a signal to the rest of the industry. This person is not to be platformed. This person does not have our endorsement. And without that endorsement, doors close quietly, budgets dry up, and careers stall.
I can't fight for them coming up behind me. Then what am I doing? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, don't apologize. Don't apologize. I think it's an important message for people to hear because we see the lights, camera, action.
I'm just supposed to smile and grin and bear it and just keep, like, enough is enough.
Taraji P. Henson, one of the most talented actresses of her generation, sitting in an interview with Oprah's best friend Gayle King, breaking down in tears about being underpaid and exhausted. And viewers watching that clip felt like her vulnerability wasn't being honored. It was being extracted, just like every other guest who ever sat in that chair and gave more than they intended to give. This is the system Dave Chappelle was describing. Not a secret society with robes and candles, a cultural infrastructure and built on trust, empathy, and the appearance of advocacy that actually functions as a mechanism for control. She never lost control of the story, not once. Harvey Weinstein's story broke, and Oprah became the face of Me Too. The John of God episode, deleted. The South Africa school, yes, she flew down personally, cried publicly, fired people, and the sympathy flowed back toward her. The Maui charity backlash, she called herself terrorized by the internet. Every single crisis became a redemption arc, because she is the one holding the pen. Dave Chappelle walked away from $50 million. He went to Africa, he came back, he kept performing, he kept talking, and over the years, as Diddy's arrest made headlines, as Harvey Weinstein sat in a courtroom, as Epstein's name became synonymous with the darkest corners of elite power, people started going back to what Dave said in 2006 and asking, what exactly did this man know?
See that, Dave Chappelle? That's why we stay inside where it's safe, and we never try anything.
Staying safe. That's the tax the industry charges anyone who sees too much and says too little. Dave refused to pay it, and the people who came forward, Monique, Rose, Ludacris, Taraji, they refused to pay it too. Oprah has never been charged, never been officially implicated, and she is worth nearly $3 billion. Not because she avoided mistakes, but because she never lost control of the story around them. The handler doesn't need to commit the crime. The handler just needs to make sure the crime never becomes the story. And for 30 years lying in plain sight on daytime television in front of 60 million viewers, that is exactly what Oprah Winfrey has done. Dave Chappelle saw it, he said it, and the industry tried to make him look crazy for it. Who's laughing now? If this video connected dots you've never seen connected before, drop a comment below. Tell me what you think Oprah actually knew. And if you want to go even deeper into how Hollywood protects its most powerful players, the next video is already waiting for you.